What's up, guys? Gunn here. Happy NFL Week 5. This video is coming at you later than any week or slate preview has come at you. My bad on the delay of content. You guys know this week was pretty much encompassed by my New York Yankee obsession. They played 5 days in a row throughout the week. And then it's just like really hard to pump out content for NFL when it seems like every day we're struggling with like COVID, false negatives, false positives. Literally right as I hit the record button, Adam Schefter tweeted that there was another positive case for the New England Patriots. So that game is in full on jeopardy to even happen this week. Probably doesn't happen. And then you guys have been, in the DMs. So, hey, we need the videos. So here's the videos. Next week, no more Yankee playoffs, no more NBA, nothing else to really kind of pull away. So I'm really hoping to at least get at least 2 videos a week for NFL. One the night before or the day before, the final thoughts, kind of like this. And then maybe something midweek just to kind of have some content up. We'll also have pretty soon introducing more gaming content during this lull period. You guys that know or have looked at the schedule, man, boy, was it fun to have baseball, basketball, NFL all at once. But it's about to get real quiet real soon. The months of November, December, it even looks like most of January could just be only NFL in terms of a major market sport, right? NBA seems like the earliest NBA will come back is January, unless something miraculous happens and they give us Christmas or something like that. But still, very quiet next couple of months. So trying to prevent the channel from getting lost in the YouTube algorithm, we'll probably start putting up some more gaming content, stuff like that. So look out for that, and maybe some poker nights or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna try and keep this video as fast as possible. His last thoughts for NFL Week 5. Just finished all of my game notes, my player pool for the RunDFS.com NFL VIP spreadsheet, and then of course chatting it up with some of the cats in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord. You guys can jump into all that, get access to the notes, look at my player pool, reference my stuff to your stuff, just kind of get ideas by going to RunDFS.com, giving yourself a VIP pass. I think the week passes, we put them at $20. I'll probably keep them around that spot. I'll also mention that we got the 2021 year passes up. So if you guys already know you're gonna lock in for 2021, or you want to, if you don't have an active sub, you want to get the rest of this year and then lock in for 2021 words English, you can do so by going to RunDFS.com, getting that in. You'll get to it's October 15 months for $700, and it's usually $100 a month, so it's almost like a 50% regular price. So go check that out. In the downtime for these other sports, I'm going to be leaning on the Discord a little bit because there's going to be other sports to play, right? MMA, golf, and I've even dabbled with some League of Legends, stuff like that. I don't know that I'll ever put myself out there to provide content for any of that, but we certainly have big-time players for those sports in the Discord. So during the overall mainstream sports market absence, I certainly think there's still value in the RunDFS.com Discord. So I'll be looking forward to that. Anyway, let's talk about NFL Week 5. I'm going to go through some of the injuries that I've recapped here in the injury tracker tab in the RunDFS.com NFL VIP spreadsheet. The most notable ones I've put together from the Jets side: Sam Darnold out. Looks like Joe Flacco starting there. And Brashad Perriman out, or doubtful at least, but probably out. If Brashad Perriman's out, something to note from the Jets, it's not sexy, right? It's not going to be sexy, but look at Jeff Smith. He's 3K, bare bones min. Last week saw 9 targets, 7 catches. I don't want to chase 9 targets here, but Brashad Perriman was a guy that played a whole heck of a lot of snaps, and Jeff Smith came in and just kind of absorbed a lot of the snaps as well, over 90%. So he might be a fun 3K punt. And then, of course, Jamison Crowder, in every game he's played so far, has had double-digit targets. Remember, Sam Darnold to Joe Flacco, we don't actually know what's going to happen, but we do know it's going to be positive game script, a faster-paced game going against the air raid Cardinals offense. So I don't really see a way that they don't have to throw the ball a lot, the Jets. They also get Le'Veon Bell back in the mix. We'll see how that shakes out. I don't have a whole lot of love to go crazy with the Jets, but I am finding myself having a little bit more Jameson Crowder, maybe a little bit more Jeff Smith than I thought I would pre-flop. Eagles injuries. Deshaun Jackson, limited all week in practice, is out. Avonte Maddox, cornerback, out. Alshon Jeffrey, out. The Eagles, and then, of course, Jalen Reagor was put on the IR. Eagles are strapped. I mean, they just don't have high-grade receivers right now, and they're going to be going against a Steelers defense that puts a lot of pressure on you. Both defenses here really are going to have strong defensive line spots here, and usually the way to beat either team, the Steelers and the Eagles, is kind of that home run ball, and I don't think the Eagles have the home run hitter when it comes to a speedy receiver. So I do like the Steelers defense off the top here, and I do think the Steelers D-line versus the Eagles O-line is a super plus spot to target. Bengals side, Joe Mixon, I saw last night tweeted that they expect him to play. John Ross, doubtful with an illness. Ravens, Mark Andrews, I saw last night that he's expected to play. He was questionable with thigh. Any other big ones here? Raheem Mostert would be somebody to watch. I also think we saw him expected to play. We'll round up the Schefter tweets here. If Mostert being in would really kind of kill the vibe here on Jerick McKinnon. And this was the Schefter tweet. Mostert and Deebo Samuel, both listed as questionable for today's game against the Dolphins, should be good to play. So from my perspective, I'm probably just going to completely avoid the 49ers. Everything just seems really hard to project. George Kittle back in the mix, and the running back by committee is just something I tend to avoid as best I can. Mark Andrews, you see in this tweet, Marquise Brown, Lamar Jackson. Harbaugh just put everyone on the injury report. It looked like the Chicago Bulls injury report. All those guys expected to play as well. Joe Mixon listed as questionable with a shin injury, expected to play. Back to the injury report tracker. Carlos Hyde, that's not really for this slate. Nothing else here is Julio Jones is a big one. He didn't practice all week. He's questionable. However, he's a true game time decision. They're going to see how he feels before the game cranks up. If he's unable to go, Zacchaeus is another 3K receiver to kind of look at, him and Jeff Smith. He saw 9 targets in his last outing, but 6 the game before. And I think, the Russell Gage targets kind of declined at the same time. So maybe if you expect progression for Russell Gage's targets and then regression here, look at that. But definitely think 3K Zacchaeus could be... I know I'm butchering that name. Somebody correct me on that. Could be somebody to look at. He might even shock you with ownership in cash should Julio be confirmed out pretty early. Anyway, that's the injury news and notes and looks. Real quick, I'm going to go over a couple games that I'm really, really interested in. We talked about the Cardinals and the Jets here. Cardinals, I think, are a pretty short list of people I want to target. Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins would be the first two. Kenyon Drake, two guys that I've been playing a whole lot and that just haven't got the results for fantasy. Kenyon Drake and Logan Thomas. Last week, Kenyon Drake, 13 attempts, just 3.5 fantasy points. The targets have not been there. He hasn't seen more than 2 targets in the game so far. That's a little bit worrisome. I think this is the week I back off of Kenyon Drake. But I do think because I don't think it's a great matchup north-south anyway against the Jets defense. And if the targets aren't going to be there for me, I just think I can go elsewhere at this price point. So this will be the week I get off of Drake. So expect the flop leg there. But DeAndre Hopkins is fine. I don't think I'm going to have a whole ton of Hopkins. I feel like the Cardinals will be protecting a lead for the most part. 8K for Hopkins. At this price point, that 30 against San Francisco is what you want. Wasn't a whole lot of slate-breaking stuff at 8K. Probably go down to Ridley in this price range, but certainly wouldn't talk anyone off of Hopkins. And we know Bill O'Brien of the Texans got canned this past week, so maybe he has a little bit of a shady touchdown celebration for him. I'd be very curious to see that. Carolina and Atlanta. This is a game that I think a lot of us are on. If we look at the game total for this one, it's at 54. It's actually gone up since it opened at 51. I think both sides have a really clear-cut pool of players that we want to attack. We start with the Carolina side. As much as I like Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and Mike Davis, I do think it's a little weird that I'm not getting into a whole lot of Teddy Bridgewater. He's 5.9K. If I'm looking for 20-plus DKP at this price point, he's certainly shown us last week that he's able to do it. So maybe that's a mistake. Maybe I need to go back and tweak it. But I think Robbie Anderson projects to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. Certainly could be the highest owned receiver on the slate, 5,900 for him. The targets are just kind of there for him and DJ Moore. But I think the red zone seesaw is teetering more towards Robbie Anderson, and Anderson's really just getting more targets overall anyway. Let's see, in 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's gotten double-digit targets. And then, of course, the game script should be pretty positive. If we look at that game total one more time, the Panthers are slight underdogs here. So certainly a neutral game script here to kind of allow the Panthers to play their style of football. And for me, that's Robbie Anderson. And then, of course, Mike Davis. I mean, the price is still fine for me. I think I would probably be considering Mike Davis at 7,400. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's still just kind of filling in that role for what their playbook was. There's not really a lot of guys behind him that they're leaning on. 16 carries last week with 6 targets, and I think this is what is really appealing for Mike Davis. 8, 9, 6 targets the last 3 weeks. High catch percentage in PPR, man. If he's going to get 5 to 10 targets, that could be a floor of 8 to 14 alone. And then if he just happens to get in the end zone from, his 15 to 18 carries, that's cool too. So Mike Davis, I expect him to be super, super high owned today. I'll see a lot of Mike Davis and Robbie Anderson. Both those guys are actually in my 5-player core today. Again, like I said, I don't have as much Teddy Bridgewater as maybe I should. But like these guys are so self-explanatory and so easy to get to. That they're just borderline locks for me. On the Falcons side, I don't see myself getting to the running back situation here. Todd Gurley's 5,700. He's kind of in that Kenyon Drake range, not getting a whole lot of targets. Medium carries here. I guess you could say that there has been a really, really negative game script or not positive game script for a pure running back in the last couple weeks. Maybe if you think the Falcons should be a little bit stronger against the Panthers, who haven't been a great run defense the last couple of years, you put him at a shot at 20 fantasy points. Really, from any running back I roster, I would love to know that 20 plus fantasy points is realistic. And he knocked on the door last week. But again, I really want to see those targets there in PPR for DraftKings. Maybe Todd Gurley feels a little bit more like a FanDuel play, but either way, I don't have the warm and fuzzies. On the receiver side here for the Falcons, Julio Jones, if I had to guess right now, knowing what we know, didn't practice all week, true game time decision, I'm just going to assume he's out. With that said, Julio Jones is Julio Jones. He doesn't need to practice. He knows the playbook. And if he's in, he's in. He's cheaper than Calvin Ridley by a lot here. If he's out, obviously that's going to put Ridley as the wide receiver 1 here for the Falcons. Will be a fine target, 7,500. I do think there's a little bit of a range of outcomes where he's just an okay play. But you see 10-plus targets in the 3 games preceding last week. Certainly a guy that can break the slate, and I certainly expect him to be pretty high owned. Like I said, Zacchaeus probably elevates his ownership. And then Russell Gage, the last couple weeks for him, targets have declined dramatically. 3 targets. I do think there's a range of outcomes where his targets come back up. And then we're looking at tight end Hayden Hurst, 4,700 for him. High route runner. Targets are median, close to 5K here, so I don't feel amazing about it. But certainly somebody I would throw in the mix here if I'm targeting the Falcons. But Calvin Ridley seems like the clear-cut top option. Moving on, Rams in the Washington football team. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I'm not going to have a whole lot of either side. Rams are pretty big favorites. If we look at the game total here on the Labs page, Rams, Rams and Washington. I'm always looking for the Indian, and then I'm looking for the old Rams logo. So they both okie dokie me here. 46.5 total here for this game. So kind of a low total, and the Rams are 7.5 favorites. Normally something I look at for the running back situation, but the Rams are offering one of those running back by committee approaches, so I just kind of washed my hands with that. I think Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are worth ancillary options here, but I will play devil's advocate for a salary-saving thought. And I feel like I can't get away from this situation from the Washington football team, because I'm sure you guys have heard me kind of make this case with Dwayne Haskins and Logan Thomas. But the Washington's making a change at quarterback today, and that changes Kyle Allen. I know a lot of people are like, oh, why are they getting rid of Dwayne Haskins? You know, they need to groom him, whatever. They don't have a chance, so they might as well keep running. Well, first of all, they do have a chance. First place in the NFC East is the one-win Philadelphia Eagles. They lost to the Washington football team. So as ugly as it is, we don't know or haven't really thought of Ron Rivera as a conservative play-to-tank coach, right? So I don't think it's crazy to make a change. I do think Dwayne Haskins will start again this season. But with that said, Kyle Allen is coming directly from Ron Rivera's Panthers team, and is very familiar with what Rivera wants. I'm sure he's going to be somewhat comfortable. And this is a game where he should go out there and lose, but he's 4,100 on DraftKings, and I just love the idea, and I can't get away from it, of putting Kyle Allen and Logan Thomas into my lineups. And I know Logan Thomas, should click on his name, is kind of like Kenyon Drake for me. I keep playing him, and the far right column just isn't there for me. But the routes run are there, the snap counts are there, and I do think the targets will be there. Now, the Panthers in the last couple seasons have leaned on their tight ends under Ron Rivera, and I feel like there's a chance that goes up here for Washington. So I'm just completely enamored with putting Allen and Logan Thomas in some single entries. And that's less than 8K, right? 4,100, 3,500. Give me 7,600 for a highly correlated discount, double check. And that's going to open up the floodgates for my salary. I've made lineups with this combo that have Zeke, Calvin Ridley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mike Davis, Robbie Anderson. Like, I've made some pretty stacked lineups with this combo. And overall, like, I do think quarterback has some great high-end options, right? Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. But think about some of the stuff we're missing, right? There's no Russell Wilson. There's no Aaron Rodgers on this slate. A couple games on Monday, and then the Sunday night game, the Vikings and the Seahawks, right? Some of the 30-point guys aren't on the slate, and some of these other guys are massive favorites, right? Lamar Jackson. If we go look at the game totals for the Ravens and all these high-end, high-tier quarterbacks. First of all, is this last week? No, this is this week's. I thought it said Seahawks. Dak Prescott, right? He's the guy that has been throwing for 400-plus yards a game. He's a minus 9.5 point favorite, right? Maybe that lowers his ceiling. We look up at... So we mentioned Patrick Mahomes. He's an 11.5 point favorite, already priced up, where I'm looking for 25 plus 30 if I can get it, right? And then Lamar Jackson, 11-point favorite. So, like, this is a slate where it could feel a little bit more like 2 years ago daily fantasy, where, there's a really small window range of outcomes where these quarterbacks could all get me 16 to 25, 18 to 22 in a tighter window. So I don't hate the idea of taking a shot at Colin Allen, and best case scenario here, maybe falls into Logan Thomas twice in the end zone. It's whatever, right? Rams not a great matchup, anything like that. It's just something I can't get away from, and I'm trying to justify it with game theory. So just want to kind of share that. I don't think I'm going to get to a whole lot of Terry McLaurin. I do kind of respect this Rams secondary enough where I don't want to push the issue there. But if you thought McLaurin was fine, go for it. I wouldn't talk you off of it. Anyway, let's get on to the next game. the Eagles in Pittsburgh. So this is a game that I think feels more like a defensive slugfest, right? Two scrappy front sevens. I love the Steelers' defense. Like I said, I think this Eagles offense is very, very handicapped right now. Their offensive line is in shambles. Expect Carson Wentz to be on his back a few times, so I love the Steelers' defense. I also like the return here of Deontay Johnson. Before he got injured in that Texans game, he had seen double-digit targets in Week 1 and Week 2. He's 5,600. He's also a kick returner, so if you're going to be heavy on the Steelers' defense, there's that long shot double dip if he runs one back. So I definitely think he has room to increase on this price point. I don't necessarily think that like this is a premier matchup. I do think the Eagles secondary is playing a little bit above expectation, but double-digit targets, if that's there for him here, I definitely put him in the mix here, playing with my player pool. But that's probably it. Like, I don't see myself getting to a lot of juju. Probably not playing James Conner or anything like that. I'm probably avoiding all of the Eagles offensive players. So just kind of my quick spin on that. Bengals in Baltimore. So I think Baltimore's week to week is a pretty short-listed player group for me. Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, and probably my preferred is Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews. And that's fine here for me. Again, I do think the Bengals are better on defense than a lot of people kind of think. But the Ravens being such massive favorites, they're already one of the teams with one of the highest run ratios. We're looking at RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet. Ravens have the second highest run percentage in football, 54.3%, trailing just the Cleveland Browns. So if they're playing with an 11-point lead, probably expect them to run it a whole lot. But the thing is, you can't really gravitate towards any of their running backs here. Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, pretty well split situation. If you look at the last couple games, 9, 4, 10 attempts for Gus Edwards. We go over to J.K. Dobbins, 5, 1, and 2, a couple of red zone touchdowns for him. Same with Mark Ingram, 8, 7, 9. It's just not. It's not there for me to attack. If you spin the wheel, make a deal, and one of these guys gets the 2 or 3 touchdowns with 40 yards rushing, cool. I just can't see myself projecting that pre-flop. But I'm perfectly fine with saying Lamar Jackson is somebody we could target in any format, even in games where they blow teams out. We see him kind of push 20 plus, but I think at this price, I don't see myself pushing the issue here with any of these high-end, high-price quarterbacks today. But Jackson and Mahomes, I'll have a little bit. I have a little bit just because I know the high correlation short list grouping that I'll have, right? I don't have to spend a lot of lineups to get me enough Andrews and Lamar handcuffs. You know what I'm saying? Even Lamar's a guy you can run naked. On the Bengals side, so Joe Mixon is going to play. Last week, fantastic week for him. Really, really helped me a lot. He saw the end zone 3 times at 151 yards rushing. Just a massive day, 45 points. Matchup and game script, not there, right? He's not going to have 25 carries today. Maybe it plays a little bit more close than a lot of people think just because of the Bengals defense. But that Ravens offense just seems so dynamic that I can't really hold my breath on that. So I'm going to be down on Joe Mixon today, but I wouldn't think you're crazy if you had a couple tournament shots. I think the only receiver for me on this Bengals team that might make my player pool is T. Higgins. Last couple games for him, 7, 9, 6 targets. Again, it's not fun to play teams that are projected to be 2+ possession underdogs. But from a game script standpoint, I mean, that highly favors the pass catchers, and T. Higgins is cheap enough that if you're going to give him a shot at 8 to 9 targets, sure, you're in the mix, but nothing that I'm going to force in. Next game, Jacksonville and the Houston Texans. This should be a pretty fun fantasy sweetheart game. Houston Texans getting rid of Bill O'Brien throughout the week. Players are very happy about it. Bill O'Brien was very, very, very hated, and there was reports that one of the catalysts in Bill O'Brien being terminated was an open, heated argument with J.J. Watt. And, of course, we know Bill O'Brien has made some horrendous business moves for the Texans, trading away DeAndre Hopkins for a can of peanuts, right? It's really tough. So I definitely think this is going to be a rejuvenated team morale-wise, the Texans, and they're going against a very, very beatable Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think they're going to, smash the Jaguars by any stretch, but I think this game plenty of points. 54 is our OU here. Texans are favored by 7. It looks like Deshaun Watson to Will Fuller is going to be the highest owned combo in every format, but probably especially your cash games. And that's something that I currently have in my cash game. So no argument for me there. Behind Will Fuller, you can look at Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks. No level of confidence there. And then David Johnson. David Johnson really hasn't had positive game script all year. In short burst, he's looked great, right? A couple games where he's over 3 yards a carry. I do think at 5,200, he's worth a couple chips in the chair. And we saw what Joe Mixon was able to do last week. 4 targets here. So 5,200, I'll have a little dab of David Johnson and the game script, being positive here process-wise as the Texans are 7-point favorites. Give me some Jags, too. Normally, I don't like to play 7-point road dog running backs here, but, man, I can't shake the thought that James Robinson is a fantastic play here. Jaguars have one of the highest DVOA offenses versus the worst run defense in the Houston Texans when it comes to DVOA. We go to that defense versus position chart in the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet. We go to rushing yards allowed. The Texans by far have allowed the most rushing yards on the season, 651, giving up 6 touchdowns. And it's just like a huge spot for James Robinson, right? Outside of J.J. Watt, this defense is nothing to really shy away from and be scared of. So I know it's a 7-point spread here, but the matchup seems fine for Robinson. And I would kind of hate myself for not having enough of him. I've really struggled where to weigh him and Mike Davis, right? Like 1-2 for me in cash would be like Ezekiel Elliott's and Edwards-Helaire. But James Robinson versus Mike Davis was so close for me. So what I did was I played Mike Davis so far in cash because I think he's going to be higher owned. We'll just block it there. But in my single entries, I'm actually going to fade Zeke in some spots and just go like Robinson, Edwards, and Davis, and then in some lineups fade Edwards and get to Zeke. You know what I'm saying? So 6,700 for James Robinson. I love the matchup for him. If I had to target some pass catchers, DJ Chark kind of at the top of the list here for my Jags interest. 9 targets last week. Couple of not fun spots for the Jaguars so far, right? Titans and the Colts both kind of run heavy teams. But the Jaguars also just kind of like really spread the ball out. So I'm not going to gravitate towards one pass catcher at a high ownership exposure. But I'll certainly have a nice chunk of James Robinson. And then, like I said, Will Fuller is going to be pretty trendy today. I got no reason to push back against that. The Raiders and the Chiefs next up on the docket. Like I said, Chiefs big-time favorites here right now, -12. So usually when it comes to the Raiders, their offense for me, short list, is Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller. Well, Josh Jacobs not somebody I really like to play unless it's a neutral game script, and in this case, it's not that. So I don't have any Josh Jacobs in my player pool right now. It's basically Darren Waller and then some ancillary shots on Hunter Renfrow and Henry Ruggs, but even then I don't have like a high level of confidence. So it's basically just getting some Darren Waller where I can, 5,900, expecting double-digit targets here, playing from behind. I know John Gruden, and we might see some halfback dives while he's down 14 in the second quarter or something, but I still don't think I'm going to get too much else but Darren Waller. And then on the Chiefs side, again, kind of like the Ravens, we know like where we're going. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, all are in play. It's kind of hard to play them all together. Borderline impossible. But I do have groupings of them in tournaments. But the running back, Edwards-Helaire, 6,800. He'll probably be one of the highest owned players in cash games. The touches would be there. Probably project him at 20-plus touches. Can he get to 20 DKP? A couple trips in the end zone? Sure. I got nothing against that. The Raiders are allowing 38.8 DraftKings points per game to opposing running backs, 7 touchdowns allowed. So it's not like they're giving up a whole lot. Well, they are giving up a whole lot of yards, but it's not like on the Texans level. But certainly a spot where Edwards-Helaire should smash and should be plenty of opportunity for him. Behind him, he does have some guys that will share some carries, but he has a pretty strong stranglehold on most of the volume. Darrell Williams, 1 and 2 carries the last 2 weeks. Darwin Thompson, 0-2 carries. So it's CEH and then everyone else. So I don't mind that. Edwards-Helaire will easily be my highest owned piece of the Chiefs. Like I said, in some mass entry stuff, I'll have a couple of the other player correlation groupings. Miami and San Francisco, we got news that Raheem Mostert and Deebo Samuel are going to be in the mix. I'm fully expecting one of the Niners running backs to drop like 25-30, right? But it's just one of those situations where I just can't predict it pre-flop. I would say maybe we look at George Kittle a little bit. 6,600, 15 targets in week 4 against the Eagles, 43 fantasy points. Like that's very, very valuable 6'6", right? If that was a wide receiver today and you knew that 15 targets is an option, then yeah, you'd probably jump on that pretty easily, right? We're looking at 8K receivers like DeAndre Hopkins that go games that Devontae Adams, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are guys that are priced at 8K, and this could be the same spot. So, certainly would have George Kittle in the mix. But the rest of the Niners probably just don't get played by me, just because it just seems really, really hard to target pre-flop. On the Dolphins side, I don't have any Dolphins in my player pool. Obviously, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, guys like that, they make your mix. But this Niners defense has just been pretty, pretty strong. So I'm going to stay away from that. Move on to the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. This game has a super, super high interest level throughout the DFS community. We should see some pretty high ownerships. I'm most interested to see where the field ends up in terms of the Giants exposures. The Giants have really, and this isn't, I'm not going to like defend the Giants too much here, right? But they've really had a tough first 4 weeks. The Steelers at Chicago. Saquon Barkley gets injured. San Francisco, really tough defense. At the Rams, Easter. Like, it has been a tough first 4 weeks for the Giants. And because of that, prices have been reduced, and now they're going against a Cowboys defense that just has been getting shredded. If it wasn't for the Falcons not knowing how to drop on an onside kick, Cowboys could be over. And that's not a knock at the Cowboys offense. It's just that defense has just been carved up. So it's a Jason Garrett revenge game going back to Dallas. Maybe he's got a little something for him. We have seen Daniel Jones, win some tournaments last season. So I definitely think it's well within the range of outcomes to have a strong showing here by the Giants. And without Saquon Barkley, I'm going to look a little less at the running back situation, right? Devontae Freeman, guys like that, I can stay away from. I don't think it's crazy to look at them, but we can put more pressure on the receivers here. Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, and probably my favorite option here, Evan Ingram, 4,600, 10 targets last week, 8 targets 2 weeks ago. I mean, the defenses have been tough on him, but this defense looks like it's going to be his best matchup yet. And this is one of the top projected fantasy tight ends, and I think a lot of people have forgot about that. And this guy was essentially a receiver in his first season with the Giants. So I like the Giants. Theoretically, but probably my favorite option here is Evan Ingram. And then on the Cowboys side, I do think the Giants defensively are a little bit more scrappy than a lot of people give them credit for. I don't think they're going to be able to contain this Dallas offense. The Dallas offense right now projected to have a implied total of 31 real points. I certainly would be curious with the under, but only the Niners have dropped 30 on them. We look at the Rams, held them to 17. The Bears, that's not really something to be proud of. The Steelers, 26. Their secondary is a little bit better than people think. Last 2 games allowing 93, 58 rushing yards. The passing yards are down. James Bradbury, their secondary is just a little bit better than people think. So I wouldn't be shocked if Dallas underperforms. If they can, if Bradbury can contain somebody, Cooper, maybe there's more usage there or an opportunity for a CD Lamb, Michael Gallup. But right now I got to trust in the Vegas projections, and in and of themselves, the offense has been fine. I also do think that once the Cowboys get the lead, game script wise, we'll probably see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott, 9.5-point favorites. I mean, this is the Cowboys team that just needs a win right now. Last couple of weeks have been rough. So if you get the lead, don't play no games. Just go out there and kill the clock. So I certainly think that will be a big plus for Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott likely to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. 7,800 on DraftKings. I think he's 9K on FanDuel. Last week, 12 carries against the Browns, but that game got away big time. And even when the game script got away from the north-south carries, it gave them high targets. I mean, look at these targets, 8, 11, 7 targets. So this is premium usage. So no way can I not see a scenario where I would have Ezekiel Elliott in cash. Just a high total, high spread, just game script is all the way there for him. Of course, I'll be lower on guys like Dak Prescott and the pass catchers just because I do think this is pre-flop the Zeke game. But Dak Prescott has had to play as best as he can to make up for as bad of a defense that he has. I mean, these passing yards are just nuts. 502, 472, 450. Insane. Offenses that he's going against, dynamic, maybe. But the Falcons, with a little bit more sample size, haven't been as fruitful. And the Cleveland Browns have been up and down. The Seahawks, I think Russell Wilson's working on an MVP season. So there are some numbers here that I feel like we look back in maybe 10 weeks and we're even more stunned. Like, what? The Falcons scored 40 on this, 39 on this team. So I think Dak makes sense in the player groups, right? If you think the Giants can kind of shock them, maybe you have some player groupings here with Dak and Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper might get a little bit more of Bradbury. But I do feel like he goes off in matchups that he shouldn't. And the volume is just nuts for him. 16, 12, 14 targets in 3 of his first 4 games. And that Falcons game, 9 targets. So high floor based on volume alone. And if you watch the Cowboys, they try to get him involved. They run him in different routes and different slots, outside stuff like that. So 7,400, it's not a comfortable price, but if you're multi-entry scripting like I am, it's just one of those things where you can easily get around it with some of the value that's out there. And then I guess if you had to stretch your player group just a little bit, Dalton Schultz, 4,800, 8, 6, 10 targets last couple weeks. I would expect those targets go down if the game isn't as neutral as some of these other games has, or even pass happy game script like where they're trailing. But I do think Schultz could be in the mix. Nearly 5K feels a little tough to love when Evan Ingram's right there. And then lastly, the Colts and the Cleveland Browns. To top of the slate, the New England game not on this slate, and the Tennessee game not on this slate due to coronavirus scares. So this is a game I don't have a whole lot of. I'll start with the Colts side. Right now, I don't have anybody from the Colts in my player pool for my short list. The Browns defense is actually one of the I think I have the Browns defense in cash right now. I don't think the Colts drop a dud or anything like that, but I just think overall these are two teams that love to run the ball. If we go to that run-pass ratio tab in the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet, Browns have the highest run ratio in football, and the Colts round out the top 5. So these are teams that are going to run. And what does that do? That creates lengthy times of possessions, less potential scoring. So even if the Colts, had a solid game, I do think that I kind of dig the Browns defense and some short entry stuff because I do think the Browns defense isn't that bad either. So yeah, I'm not out here saying jamming the Browns defense, but I'm just saying I don't have any Colts players in my player pool, and in my cash game lineup right now I do have the Browns defense, and we've seen Phillip Rivers throw some picks in his day. So I'm looking at the Browns. Last week the Browns lost Nick Chubb. He's on the IR. Kareem Hunt came into last week's game with a groin injury. That injury designation is not on the board today. He got 11 carries last week, 2 touchdowns. Game kind of got lopsided enough to where you didn't have to lean on Hunt a whole lot. And the fact that he was already injured, I think the coaching staff was like, all right, maybe we don't go crazy with him here because we don't want to lose both of our running backs here in the same game. It stands to reason that Kareem Hunt should be the highest usage, high volume guy when it comes to the run game. But I don't know that I would project him at 80+% snaps or anything like that. Behind him last week, we saw Dearness Johnson get 13 carries. We saw Hilliard get 5 carries. By the way, all these guys were just like running all over Dallas last week. So I still think there's a committee potential here, but I still think the seesaw is in Kareem Hunt, right? You get into the red zone, they're going to Kareem Hunt, not Dearness Johnson, more than likely. Knock on wood. So I don't hate a Kareem Hunt, Browns defense, handcuff. And then I would say in hashtag DFS, Odell Beckham had his monster week last week against the Cowboys. This would probably be the sell high week. But his price really isn't that unattainable. Like 6,400. If he got me 15 fantasy points, I would be like, I don't feel like that's why I failed. So I definitely don't mind going back to some Odell Beckham. Like I said, the Browns are going to want to run the ball. The Colts are going to run the ball. One of his touchdowns last week was by Jarvis Landry. But if you think 20 fantasy points is a reasonable range of outcome here, then I got nothing against it. And then of course he had 2 carries last week, 1 for 50 yards, right? So they're getting him involved. I can't see them going backwards with Odell if they can help it. I think, that was a game that him and Baker and the Browns needed. So at 6,400, I definitely think there's still meat on the bone, although Beckham has the potential to be a 7+ K receiver. So I was expecting to maybe sell high on him, but I'm going to have him in the mix again. And that's what Week 5 looks like for me. If you guys want more up-to-date information, live chat, we have a big-time group of grinders in the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet. Be sure to go to RunDFS.com and get signed up. And you guys can jump into the RunDFS.com VIP Discord. Click that football chat. And we might have some people in the voice chat today. I'm not too sure. A couple of people under the weather. I think, a couple people under the weather. So hopefully they get a little bit better. But if you're around, if you tag me, I'm quick to answer. And there's a lot of guys here talking some great game theory, talking some great stats. Always be placing up overnight. I've been kind of throwing nuggets at each other. We'd love to have you part of that community. And that's it. I think that's all I got. If you guys got anything else for me, twitter.com/GundackerSports. No more Yankee spams in the timeline. So if you followed me in the last week and you got sick of me, come on back. Come on back. As far as content for the rest of the week, in week 6, should definitely have some up a little bit earlier this week. I have a lot more free time on my hands. And like I said, I also probably have a lot more Twitch content. So if you guys didn't know that I stream on Twitch for gaming, but I'll talk sports with you while I'm gaming. Twitch.tv/Gundacker99. I will see you guys on the flip side. I love each and every one of you. Hope you crush it today. Tag me in them screenshots. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.